Hey, what's happening, CS Tears? It's Monday night. Welcome to another edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Glad you're with us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm back yet again for another week of CST. Glad you're with us. A big show tonight. We've got FC Cincinnati president Jeff Berding joining us coming up here in just a few minutes to talk about all things orange and blue. West End Stadium, 2020 roster, you name it. Oh, the 2020 schedule. Will there be home games? Will there be fans at home games? We're going to touch on all of that and more tonight here on the show. And then when Jeff calls in here in just a few moments. Of course, we always want to hear from you. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com is the email address. You can send us email. You can also hit us up on Twitter as well. We want to hear from you. So make sure you chime in tonight, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Or, as I said, you can also email us. Again, that email just feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com.
Captains.
We've got another episode captain this week. 2 weeks in a row, we've got an episode captain. Let's give a big shout out. Thanks to Melissa Bingle. We all know who Melissa is. She's probably, the number one FC Cincinnati fan out there. A couple years ago, went to every away game for FC Cincinnati. So we're glad to have her on board as one of our big supporters. Melissa, thank you so much for wearing the armband for this episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. To learn more on how you can support the show and wear the armband for an episode, head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. All right, let's welcome in my tag team partners for this week. I will start with Brian Weigel. Brian, how you been, buddy? Did you have a good weekend?
Good. Just the pressure's off. The main man's back in the captain's chair. Feel good. We're transitioning back to normalcy a little bit. Love doing the host thing. Maybe we'll get there back again, but glad to have you back in the main chair, pal.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all that you did over the last few months. There's been a lot going on privately, which will remain there. But I think all is well in the Superling household. And as you can see, I've got the scarves up behind me, the flags back up, and all is good. And I'm excited to be back in the hosting chair. And you did a phenomenal job, Brian. I really do appreciate all you did over the last 2.5 months. Buddy.
I appreciate you, my man. And just a shout out to all you listeners, since we got so many of you here at the top of the show. This is a huge week for Nicholas J. Superling. The new producer of the best soccer show, the best national soccer podcast and web stream, going live Tuesday night on YouTube, man. You pumped for that?
I'm pumped. I'm nervous because, as you can imagine, it's going down to the wire, and there's still a lot of prep work that needs to be done before our big show tomorrow night. But that's for tomorrow night. Tonight, we've got a big show, as I mentioned. Jeff Berding going to be calling here in just a few moments. Let's also welcome back into the show our head guru, our head coach, Brad Goff. Coach, how you been, buddy?
You know, I'm doing okay, but I've spent the last few weeks sucking up to Brian Weigel, thinking he's the new host of this show, and you guys are just snip, snap, flipping back and forth on me here. It's, we're going the way of FCC. We gonna get a third host in just a few weeks here, or how are we doing this? I just need to know where I stand and whose butt I need to kiss to make sure I get on the show more often.
Oh, Coach, you can't do any wrong in my eyes. Appreciate you being on the show tonight. Looking forward to getting your thoughts on the orange and blue. And last but not least, it wouldn't be an episode of CST without the Wolfman, Bill Wolf. Bill, how you been, buddy?
Oh, I've been doing great. Yeah, we got our interim host back. Our original host back. Yeah, I feel like Johan Domingue, you come, you go, you come, you go. No. Anyway. Yeah, doing great. I just wanted to give a shout out to Melissa Bingle as well. Obviously, yeah, she's the super fan. I just wanted to say for all you guys who missed it, I was especially excited to see her on the big scoreboard during MLS's back.
Yeah, a couple
times. She was the queen of the Queen City, wearing her crown and everything. She looked good. So that's good to have her as a supporter of the show. Well, she's always been a supporter of the show, but officially now.
Yeah. And it was cool watching the games, and I remember a couple times during our watch along, Bri pointing her out, like, "Hey, there's Melissa."
Oh yes, she's number one fan, always on the big screen. Looked great on there. That was cool seeing all the fans, like you see like Joseph May on there. Whoever loves seeing all the different people. So it was cool to see that on while FC Cincinnati was playing. So didn't like much seeing the opposing fans, but is what it is.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that they, as a broadcast, they were able to get fans involved, right? I didn't like that the ball disappeared when those scoreboards were up there, but minor details, right? But it was still pretty cool to see a couple of our FC Cincinnati friends and family showing up on the big screen there. Was there anything from MLS's back now that we're wrapping up the tournament? Is there anything that stood out to you as far as technology wise that you really like that you kind of hope maybe MLS continues going forward?
I was impressed with the amount of microphones that they made available, being able to hear some of the dialogues that occurred. I don't know how well that would work in a full stadium with the noise or whatever is going on, but certainly, we got a glimpse during our game with, I think it was Portland. Anyway, we got a glimpse of our game of being able to hear VAR on the broadcast. That was exciting. And it seems like that may be something that's going to stay. But there was even a few times where you could hear a couple of dialogues and conversations with the referees and players.
Yeah.
I'd love to see more and more of that from the broadcast standpoint. I mean, it definitely adds value to the broadcast. It's something that you can't even get in a live situation. So it's wonderful for them to have that.
Anybody else have anything else they want to add there?
Well, Coach, you enjoy the above the pitch cameras, right?
Yeah, that the Sky Cam is fantastic to be able to go back and watch what happened or for replays. And I would really like to see that stick around as an option for the production team to cut to for replays. It's tough to watch just to watch in 90 minutes like that because the way it spins around and you lose parts of the ball and things depending on who the operator is. But it's fantastic to have that as an option, just an additional angle to really see how all 11 players are moving on the pitch and see the various pieces in the build up to goals, fouls, whatever. So yeah, I liked that. I also echo what Bill said about the camera or the microphones. And I think that the technology was cool. It just added an atmosphere that you don't get if you've watched, the Major League Baseball or NBA. The atmosphere just isn't really there in those empty stadiums. I think it's cool having the digital surround, even if it is artificial.
Yeah.
I like this thing from Kyle Ryder. Mic the refs like they do in rugby. You think that'd be helpful, Coach?
I mean, it'd be interesting. I don't know how helpful it would be because I think by and large, most referees are out there doing what they think is right. So I think it'd be interesting to hear the assistant referees and the center ref talk to each other just from an interest standpoint. But I don't think we'd learn any new information. It'd be a cool little quirk, I think.
Yeah. I've seen it in a couple of other leagues as well where they've had the refs mic'd up and you learn a lot. You hear how they interact, which is pretty cool. Well, what were some of your interesting technological advancements that you saw in Major League Soccer or that you liked? Hit us up, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Well, we're pleased to be joined now on the CST hotline by FC Cincinnati president Jeff Berding, making his return to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Jeff, how are you?
Hi, guys. It's been a while. Good to be back with you.
It has been a while. Do you ever get any free time? Because I feel like you're the busy guy there with the orange and blue. Do you ever get vacations?
No, there's been no vacation this year, but I'm sure I'm not the only one who didn't take a vacation this year. It's 2020 is a year unlike any other. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. That is a good point. Well, like I said, we know you've been busy there with FC Cincinnati. You unveiled a new program today, One Club, One Community, One Goal. Why don't you tell folks about that and what that's aimed to do?
Well, it's both internal and external facing. We've said from the very beginning, our three pillars, we want to be a winning team, a family-friendly, inclusive club, and a franchise that's visible and making an impact in the community to make the community we love better. This is a program that we in our FC Cincinnati Foundation, which we're very proud of for the great work they did in our first year, primarily focused in the West End. But we wanted to have a greater reach. I'm very proud that working with our internal staff, some of our stakeholders in the West End, and some of our players, we developed this program to give us an opportunity to have a bigger presence and more of an impact. And there'll be some learning that goes with it, both for the club to help the club grow, as well as what we believe will be, some good impact in the community. We do have a link now on our website. I encourage people to check it out. to learn more about it. But it really is our platform where we're going to highlight actions by the club to address inequality and inequity within the greater Cincinnati community, and really try to deal with the disparities that are in the community. And we have to do a better job in this country in dealing with race. And FC Cincinnati, we want to have forums and actions to be a part of those dialogues and ultimately those improvements.
Well, that sounds really, really wonderful, and obviously, important at this time. There's been a lot of focus in those areas, and the club has received some notice, good and bad, on those areas. So it's good to hear, a great new movement that you guys are starting, and hopefully it pays dividends down the road. Maybe turning the conversation. Go ahead.
Can I say?
Yeah, please.
I just want to say it includes some internships to have more inclusion in the sports industry. So we're creating FC Cincinnati Futures development through sport, which is to give opportunities for high school students to get firsthand experience shadowing FC Cincinnati staff members, either at a match or at the downtown office. We're talking about a minority coaching internship out at MHTC. So we all need to do better. We certainly own the fact that we have to do more. We want to lead by example. Yes, we've had some challenges that we had to address quickly. And we want to turn this as an opportunity for learning and growing. And I know that our club, again, since day one, has aimed to be family friendly, inclusive, and making a positive impact. And this is we spent a lot of time, months, talking to people about the program, and we're very proud. And I encourage people to go to FC Cincinnati's website, fccincinnati.com, for more information.
And Jeff, you and I have talked, and I know that certainly 2020 has been a challenging year, and along the lines of diversity as well. I mean, obviously, you guys had great plans for this type of program being rolled out sooner, and with COVID and the delays in getting your coach hired, it's really set this back a little bit from a timing standpoint. But it's great to see it come to fruition. It was great to see the video today of Mercy Health Training Center. Some of us were kind of wondered a little bit if that was actually mowed or whether that was digitized on the camera. So did your groundskeeper?
It was not digitized on the camera.
That was mowed in the grass.
Was actually done to the grass. It was done to the grass to create the effect. I don't think it was mowed. I think it was created, but it was not virtual or it was not digital. Bill, I appreciate you making the point. After what happened in Florida, I talked to some of the player reps about having a conversation, a dialogue around racial issues in our club, because we heard clearly that some things had happened that need to be addressed. We did agree that we thought it most appropriate to have the new coach a part of that session, because once the new coach arrived, he would be leading the first team and needed to be bought into the conversation, not only that one time, but also where we go from here. And that was agreed upon. No one at the time, though, knew that after 2 games, we were going to be, in effect, sent home for 3 months. And also, it'd be very hard once we hired a coach who, in this case, was in Europe. We would have weeks to get him into the country. As soon as Yop and Saeed got here, they went through a sensitivity training, a diversity training with Janet Reed, who's a internationally renowned consultant in this space, working with companies. And she went through, I think, 3-hour session with them, and then came in the following week. The Yop session was in the first few days he was here in Cincinnati, the first week, and then did the session with all of our players. And as you saw with today's announcement, that work continues and will be ongoing, and those discussions will be ongoing.
Well, we've seen that beautiful stadium in the West End spring up aggressively over the past couple months. Has everything still been on track to open up at the beginning of next year?
Yes, we're very blessed that notwithstanding COVID, the stadium is still on schedule to open next spring 2021. Turner Construction, Jostin, and all of our partners down at the stadium have done a great job. We've had some delays, primarily with supply chain issues, but they've been able to overcome them. And at this point, we're still full go. I think you'll see the scoreboards coming in more here in August. The Bailey, we had our great supporter leaders putting in the first row of the Bailey.
Thank you.
And that'll continue this month. And then, great job. And I think as we get into September, maybe you'll start seeing some grass go down.
Now, has COVID-19 affected any of the changes to the stadium?
We did make some changes. We've tried to make it more touchless. So think of the entrances. We bought some technology to have the entrances be more touchless. We changed some things in the restrooms to make them more touchless. And there's been some other technology changes with respect to think of concession stands and the like. We were too far along to change, extraordinary infrastructure, but we think the technological upgrades we did, and then there will be some significant operations improvements. Think of maybe now there'll be a staffer, a cleaning person in each restroom to wipe down handles if you have to go into, someone has to use a door to make them clean. I'm using that as an easy example. So we feel that the stadium, we know that we need to earn people's confidence that when they come to the FC Cincinnati experience, it's family friendly and that we've prioritized the fan experience. And I can tell you we have, and we had to make some changes in recognition of new public health guidelines. Yes.
How have ticket sales been going for next season? Obviously, we're in the club seating sales at this point with, reserved and Bailey coming later. But how have the club seats been selling?
Well, they've been extraordinary. We have close to 1,000 club seat appointments that have been completed with our longest tenured season ticket holders. 98% of season ticket holders with an appointment to date have selected seats. On average, they've selected 4.03 seats per appointment. So we're getting down to where the First Financial Club, the Cincinnati Club, and the Pitchview Club, we don't have a whole lot of seating left. We still have Tunnel Club. We still have the Legends Room. And we look forward to moving to phase 3 and we'll have some announcements as we get here in the next week or so regarding phase 3. Phase 3 will be reserved seats. I think we're going to, in the Bailey, I think we're going to announce some things with respect to the Bailey here in the next couple days, some exciting announcements. And I think we're going to release the views of all the seats in the stadium because I've talked to a number of people who were concerned that only the only really good seats were going to be the club seats. And I think just as people have logged on to westendstadium.com and seen the views from premium seats, soon they'll be able to see the views from every seat in the stadium, where in effect you could view what some might call the worst seat and see that it's still extraordinary. Obviously, it's a different design. The concourse up at Nippert is obviously in effect where the suites are on the west side of West End Stadium. And so, there's an enormous number of rows, and an overwhelming percentage of our seats at Nippert are, on sideline to sideline, goal line to goal line, or end line, I should say. And obviously this is a different stadium, lots of seats behind the goal, much more. And of course we have some seats in the corner. The upper level seats at West End Stadium are much lower than I think what people are thinking in terms of Nippert. So all the seats, of course, are covered, which isn't the case at Nippert. So, we're going to continue through the selection process. We started in early July, and we're excited to continue on through this process.
Yeah, and thanks again for having the supporter leadership there to start the Bailey off and assemble that first riser. With the construction crew there. It definitely agree with you, having been in the stadium, how intimate and tight it feels. I don't think there's going to be a bad seat in that stadium. It's amazing how close you feel to the pitch. One last question. Oh, go ahead.
And all the seats also. Sorry, all the seats in West End Stadium are going to have chairbacks, and obviously the people have deposits and rollover credits. It's going to remain on account through the Phase 3 selection. Monday, September 14th will be the date that we launch Phase 3 selections. And I will share, we because of the overwhelming demand for First Financial Club, we are working to finalize potentially a convertible club option to create maybe some additional premium like inventory.
Interesting. We'll be interested to hear about that. So one last question on the stadium then. Can you maybe give us a quick update on the community benefits agreement and how that's been coming along? Maybe talk a little bit about diversity hiring related to the stadium itself.
Yes, thank you, Bill. Well, we're quite proud of our community benefits agreement. We were the first team in town and one of the very first, if not the first developer in the city that was asked to sign, and we gladly did, a process led by David Mann and Jeff Pastor. It commits us to investing over, I think, $200,000 a year in the West End. Also has the West End Design Committee to work with us on stadium design matters. Also a West End coalition as we work through what I'll call quality of life and game day operational issues. It's been a great partnership. I have to say we're very proud of the relationship we're building in the West End, and we're going to continue to work very hard to earn their support. As it relates to the stadium, we set a target to have inclusion at a level greater than the casino or equal to the casino. That was 30%. They had 30% inclusion. We have nearly 80%. I think it's 77% inclusion. That's minority-owned businesses, business enterprises, women business enterprises, and small business enterprises. The workforce Turner's done a great job working with CityLink on some job training, construction training program to get people from the West End who want maybe a career in construction to have an opportunity to either A, work on our stadium or use the impetus of the stadium to go through the training and maybe then be placed by Turner on other sites or with other subcontractors. So we're very proud of that effort. I will share with you, Turner and our Machete group have said that those things don't happen without a commitment from ownership. We have a majority union participation on the site, and Turner goes out of their way to call union shops, companies, to make sure they're bidding for contracts because we want to involve unions to the greatest degree that we can. So, again, there's always growth, and we're going to continue to grow on our partnership. But I'm very proud of how we have been inclusive with stadium construction.
Yeah, stadium, as I continue to watch the construction cams from far away, it looks like it just grows each day faster and faster. It's really exciting to see it continue to blossom there in the West End. We're hanging out with Jeff Berding, president of FC Cincinnati, here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We got this question, Jeff, from Joe Scroggin on YouTube. He says, has there been any updates to adding a FCC2 team in USL? And he also has the same question regarding an NWSL team. Can you give our fans and fans of FC Cincinnati any update on that?
Sure. Well, Gerard Nykamp, our GM, one of the things that he brought to us in his plan to create a new FC Cincinnati soccer ecosystem is to have a reserve team. Obviously, right now we have Ben Lute down in Louisville. We have Hassan and Ray playing in the USL. So it's clearly an important part of roster development. On the other hand, we have some players on our first team that right now aren't getting too many minutes, and we'd love the opportunity to have them be able to move down on a weekend where they maybe aren't in the 18 on the first team and go get some minutes. We do intend to create a reserve team. I'm going to be honest, will it be in the USL or not is something that we're still talking through. Maybe there's a partner out there that we would work with more formally than the informal that we have with a couple of the USL teams. I would say stay tuned on that as we continue to work through that issue. Clearly, it has been a bit challenged with COVID. Everyone knows we have no income to speak of for 2020, and it's a financial commitment to create the reserve team. I'm optimistic that we'll have something in 2021, but I don't want to commit to that tonight. Just I want to acknowledge the financial investment, given everything else we have going on with the stadium and the first team roster and our academy, which you may know we grew this year. We had the 15s and 17s last year, and now for 2020-21, we've added 13s and 14s, now 15s, 17s, and also 19s. So we went from 2 teams to 5 teams. So very pleased with Larry Sunderland. His leadership in this space has been extraordinary, and will continue to grow. On the NWSL side, we have enormous interest. I've said that numerous times, and believe that if we had a professional women's first team, that it would be extraordinarily successful, maybe the most successful in the United States because of the enormous support in Cincinnati for girls soccer, for women's soccer, and the quality of the players here. Not only Rose Lavelle, but there's several other women playing in the NWSL from Cincinnati. So I will share with you, we are having conversations. We do have an interest, much like the reserve team. It's a question of timing and a question of investment. We're still evaluating those opportunities. I would predict long-term, whether that's in a couple years or a couple more beyond that, I believe FC Cincinnati's West End Stadium will be hosting a professional women's team.
That's great, Jeff. I agree with that completely. This is Coach Goff here. I've been saying for a long time, the interest in women's soccer, just the talent in Cincinnati is phenomenal. We've also been following Cincinnati's World Cup bid very closely, and we've seen your name pop up in a lot of the articles concerning the bid. Can you give us an update on that? Maybe is there a timeline for when host cities will be named or any other updates you might have?
Well, thank you for asking. We're very excited about that. People may remember we submitted our bid to participate and host in the potential 2026 World Cup before the bid was even awarded to the United States, the United bid with Mexico and Canada. And at that time, we were only a USL team for 1 year, but obviously drawing enormous crowds thanks to everyone's support. And so we led an effort, but there were numerous other stakeholders involved, including our universities and the Convention and Visitors Bureau and elected official support. We made it through the first cut. Not every city did, but Cincinnati did. And where we are now is roughly 17 cities, as we understand it, maybe for 10 spots in the U.S. And then there'll be several teams from Mexico, several cities in Mexico, several in Canada. We had our first meeting with FIFA. It was a virtual meeting a couple weeks ago, maybe hour and a half to 2 hours long. And we introduced Cincinnati to FIFA leadership in Switzerland. U.S. Soccer Federation was also on the call. We had a really good discussion. Talked a lot about the support for soccer here, talked about how greater Cincinnati is within a few hours drive of about 60% of the U.S. population, and that we wanted to involve the Midwest in the World Cup, in that we are an easy drive for much of the Midwest. Of course, the matches would be played at Paul Brown Stadium, so we're talking to the county and the county, of course, with the Bengals in order to see what structural improvements. Everyone knows when Paul Brown was built, the corners are aluminum so that those could come more easily out to give FIFA width. But I'm sure there would be other improvements made to Paul Brown Stadium as well. So we're excited. The next step is they would make an in-person visit to the U.S. Cities. And I think ideally, as we understood it, maybe that would be before the end of the year. But of course, COVID is in charge. None of us are in charge, and we'll have to see where we are here in the U.S. with the pandemic as we get into the fourth quarter of this year and look ahead to the first quarter of 2021.
So Jeff, the transfer market for the United States opens here in a couple days. There's been a lot of questions on the chat about this. FC Cincinnati has done a great job. The ownership has done significant investment in bringing in Jurgen Locadio, Sam de Jong, Jaap Stam as the head coach. There's been a lot of links to German World Cup star Mario Götze, Englishman Tyler Blackett. With the ownership, are they still committed to investing further in bringing in more high quality players in this upcoming window, even though the pandemic is going on?
The short answer is yes. We're very committed to making the team better. We want to improve the roster, the quality of the roster, and the depth in the roster. And I've seen some of the names listed, and I don't have any announcements to make tonight. Gerard and Hunter and Alexander Schramm and our scouting staff continue to evaluate and have discussions. I certainly saw us linked to some high-level players, and those are the kind of players that we'd like to evaluate in terms of, is Cincinnati a good fit for the player? So when you're linked to a player of that caliber, I think it speaks to our ambitions as a club.
Has the ownership, even with this pandemic going on, have they, had to reduce, their investment at all for maybe making additions or keeping the club to a level that it needs to be to win championships?
We haven't reduced any budgets. We're increasing budgets in order to continue to take a big step this year. Last year was a painful year for everyone. The first year in FC Cincinnati's short history where, we stunk it up. And we made a commitment, Carl Lindner and I, that we weren't going to put our fans through that again. We appreciated people's patience. And we've taken some steps under Gerard's leadership. A big part of last year was, we didn't have the GM in place when we were getting underway. I know everyone says you should. Okay, well, other expansion teams have had 4 years, 3 years, 2 years. A couple of the teams just were given a whole nother year to prepare. We had 277 days and we didn't have our GM hired before we started, but Gerard's here. And we agreed we were going to use last summer transfer window, which was very tight, to make some improvements. We were going to use the winter window to make improvements. Now we're going to use the summer window if we can to continue to improve the roster. And then in the winter, before we open West End Stadium, we'll do more. And everyone understands at our ownership level that the best players cost more money, and that takes an investment. And I would say, as a club, all of us are blessed to have extraordinary owners who have a commitment behind the ambitions of this club.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's great to hear that the commitment is there and to continue forward and push the team ahead, and hopefully we'll see the results very soon. Speaking of which, obviously MLS just announced sort of the schedule for whatever it is, phase 1 of MLS restart. Cincinnati has 6 games coming up now. We know that August 21st is with DC United at home with no fans. But when do we maybe expect to hear whether or not fans will be able to participate in matches in 2021?
Well, Bill, thank you. An excellent question. And I want to acknowledge your point that, yes, the first match, we've announced that we will not have fans. The governor has made the announcement that no fans through August the 24th. We have one of our key staff executives has a meeting, a Zoom meeting tomorrow with state officials to talk about the schedule, which for us would be Saturday, August the 29th. As you know, hell is real against the Columbus Crew. If we are going to have fans, we will need the approval of a plan from MLS. We'll need MLS approval. We'll need city approval, and we will also need a state of Ohio approval. So at this point, we're just continuing to work through that process. I can share. We won't have fans if we don't feel that we can have the necessary health and safety protocol in place for matches where fans will be in attendance. We're going to follow all the applicable guidelines, the regulations, and have those approvals. And so we continue to work through it. And I would say, Bill, probably at some point here in the next week or so, maybe 2 weeks before it's close to 2 weeks before that hell is real. Everyone knows we sent the survey out. We appreciate everyone responding. The feedback was about what we thought, which is that there was still a healthy percentage, around half, of fans who said if given the option, they would like to come to a game, or they'd certainly consider coming to a game. We made it clear people would have to wear masks. All the seats would be 6 feet apart. We have a computer program that's created the manifest, obviously far back from the field in order to protect coaches and players. Some changes regarding ticketing and concessions to make it more touchless, right? So more cleaning staff in the restrooms. So all of those things, when we asked, in these conditions, would you be interested in coming? There's still a lot of fans that would like the chance of coming to matches. It's voluntary. They want to support their clubs. And of course, we're only going to do so if to give them the opportunity to come, if it's in a safe environment. Not everyone will want to come. We respect that. Not everyone will think it's a good idea. We respect that. We haven't made the decision yet, but it's certainly something that we take very seriously, and that's why we're taking our time as we work with the appropriate officials.
Yeah, and you kind of lead into my next question a little bit, Jeff, which is obviously, some fans are not comfortable in the current pandemic to end up in a large gathering of any kind, no matter what safety protocols you put in place. So have you thought about how you can include fans from home and who want to be more supporters than just TV watchers? Will there be any plans for any kind of virtual meetup rooms, or have you guys thought about how you can make supporters feel more like supporters?
Well, thank you. There are daily meetings going on right now between the league and all the clubs. Vince Cicero is one of our executives that represents us. We're trying to find ways of engaging fans, whether that be watch parties or second screens, which we did with some of the great playbacks of some of our USL matches. We're trying to think of how we can best do that. I thought that we learned a lot with MLS's back in Orlando. I thought that the league did some pretty cool things that allowed our fans to be engaged. I saw a bunch of them on the screen while I was watching from home like everyone else. We've seen how MLB is integrating fan cutouts. Kate Solomon thought, maybe we do that with the benefit to go to the FC Cincinnati Foundation. So I would say stay tuned, but we certainly want to give our fans every opportunity to engage. I can say on a personal level, my parents won't be at games, and they support our club as much as anyone. But for their public health, for their personal health, I should say, they won't come. Having said that, some of my kids would like to come. So we anticipate similar decisions. And I think what I'd like to stress is we're making it completely voluntary. All your dollars from this year are being rolled over to 2021 with the 10% appreciation credit. Or certainly if someone wants to ask for a refund, they can. But if someone wants the opportunity and chooses to come to a match, and again, we've gotten good feedback that some would if we operate in the manner I've described, we have to evaluate whether or not it's also appropriate to give them that opportunity, subject to all the necessary governmental public health approvals.
Hanging out with Jeff Berding, president of FC Cincinnati, as we begin to wrap things up with Jeff. Jeff, we got this question, and I'm sure you're dealing a lot with sponsorships at the moment, especially for the West End Stadium. But this question came in from YouTube. It was from Rishuki. He wants to know, when will Skyline be named as the title sponsor for the West End Stadium?
Well, we're going to have an announcement. I was on a call today about we have a weekly stadium call, and we have the executive from Levy who will manage all concessions in the building, and we will have an announcement soon. My guess is maybe tied closer to the kickoff of Phase 3 sales regarding in-stadium concessions. So I'll just say stay tuned. Let me pivot. I think maybe this is a part of the question. We don't have anything to announce on naming rights. So whether that's Skyline Chili Stadium or another phenomenal partner, we're blessed with Mercy Health as our kit sponsor on the jersey. We have a number of other extraordinary partners, and we look forward to hopefully before year end announcing the stadium naming partner.
We talked about it.
But I think you'll get an answer. You'll get an answer on the food sooner than end of the year.
We talked about it a few weeks on the show ago on the show, Jeff. I mean, you've got the built-in name right there, the Skyline Chili Bowl. I mean, it works perfect down there in the West End.
Well, let me just offer this. If Skyline's listening and they would like the opportunity to give me and Vince Cicero a call, okay?
I love it. Jeff, as always, we appreciate you coming on. It's been too long, I got to say. We appreciate you being on the show. We love how much time you devote to when you do come on the show. We know you're a busy man, and we thank you so much for being such an advocate for soccer in the Queen City and for joining us here on the show tonight.
I'm always happy, and congratulations to you guys. It's your anniversary as well. I love that Michael LaHood is a part of Cincy Soccer Talk. He's someone I've kept a really good relationship with. I admire him greatly, and maybe we can get him back to Cincinnati on a full-time basis in soccer here before too long.
I like the idea of that. Jeff, appreciate it, and go get some rest. All right, man?
All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks so much.
That's Jeff Berding joining us here tonight on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Really excited that Jeff had a chance to visit with us. Always love talking to Jeff about all things orange and blue. It's almost like we needed a State of the Union for him when he comes on the show. We appreciate him being on here. It's that time of the show, though, where we give a big shout out and thanks to our tremendous supporters, to Tim Bronsel, Tom Rose, Matt Adamczyk, Mike Hudson, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Matt Imholt, Matthew Long, Joe Coling, Tara Mullins, Riley Stephen Burke, and again, our newest supporter, Melissa Bingle. Thank you so much for supporting us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. To learn more on how you can support the show, head on over to cincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. Lots to digest there, right, gents? As always, Jeff comes on the show and has lots of interesting nuggets in regards to the orange and blue. What stood out to you, Brian?
I think he just threatened to take away Michael DeHoot from Cincinnati Soccer Talk there at the end. No, I just, I posed those questions about the upcoming transfers. We've heard the rumors that there's some big signings coming out there, and the fact that the ownership group is still kind of opening their pocketbooks to make things better. I at least liked him at least putting that out there to us fans, because we all can guess, we all hear things, but having your general manager come out and say, yes, pocketbook's open, still trying to improve the club, makes me feel at least a little bit better, knowing what's all going on out there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's clear that improvements needs to be made, right? I know there's rumors and whatnot, but I think as a club and as a fan, Bill, we've always kind of operated under the assumption here that we feel like FC Cincinnati, with the fan base, has the financial means to go out and make big splashes in Major League Soccer.
Oh, 100%. And I think, regardless of, whether we, sign the latest, greatest fancy player that everybody's talking about or not, the reality is that we are talking to players, in those kinds of price tags, that we're not trying to bargain basement shop Cincinnati into, barely a playoff team, but we have high aspirations as a city. I think it's great that the ownership recognizes that they're going to have to get behind that, and they have been. And I don't think there's a player out there right now that this club is not comfortable approaching and at least making an offer to. And I think that's what's exciting to me. With the new stadium coming in place, Jeff has said it. He didn't say it so much in this interview, but he said it in the past, at least somewhere, that, the stadium was designed with the idea of generating revenue. And, we have more suites than most other, if not all, soccer specific stadiums in the US. We have more club seats. Yeah, we have a huge Bailey, not the largest Bailey, but, he has definitely taken a look at those premium seats, especially at how to monetize the fan base and to generate high quality signings.
And one of those rumored high-quality signings, we talked about a little bit on the show last week, Tyler Blackett, former Manchester United center back / left back. Coach, you've had a chance to analyze Tyler Blackett a little bit. If he were to come to the orange and blue, what would FC Cincinnati be getting?
Yeah, I've had a lot of time to watch a lot of his video and look at his stats, and Ken Hetker and I had a chat about his stats as well. He's a really good passer. I think that you guys talked about that on last week's show. And I think that the interesting thing there is that he's not a great defender, but he plays a defensive position, right? The amount of duels that he wins, his positioning and everything, none of it's great. I mean, he's adequate, but the question that I have is, does this team need another defender who defending is not his strong suit, right? I see him translating more to a left center back than a left back. Not only because the price tag and justifying, supporting that spine, but playing on the outside, but in the center as like a left or right center back really frees you up to use that passing range. He should have a lot of time and space on the ball there. Now, if he can be a player like Robinson has been for Atlanta, where he really carries the ball forward and plays some great diagonal balls to free maybe Regatin and Kubo on wings, then maybe he could be a great player in terms of the possession that we think Yapstam wants to play. But in terms of whether he'll fit defensively, I think that's a big question mark.
This is a good question that we got here in the chat here from Tina. The question will always be, is this a player who will be happy in the Midwest if they come to America? Will their family be happy? The club won't pick someone who wants the LA/New York lifestyle. Brian, I mean, she brings up a good point there, right?
Absolutely. And I think and I don't know if we're ready to transition to Mario Götze yet, but I think that's something that he's clearly going to have to deal with Blackett, going back to coach. When you say left or right center back, are you talking in like a 3-person back
Yeah, in three center backs. Typically, in coach lingo, you just call it center back if it's left or right, and then use left center or right center if it's on the outside. And
but to my point is, it kind of goes back to the fit. Yes, Tina's point, you need to have the right mentality fit there, and Jurgen Locadia is doing pretty well apparently on that front. So I think there's something to be happy with there on bringing in players like Blackett. But I just don't know about the fit as a player. I mean, he's going to be expensive. He's going to be, $800,000 or more for somebody who's not a top end center back. And then we don't necessarily know if he's the right fit for a left back. So I'm not a huge fan of deciding just, without seeing a ton of video like you do.
And two, there's also questions about what defenders are going to be here next year, right? I mean, we know that some of these guys are out of contract. Andrew Goodman is on loan. He's not an FC Cincinnati player. I mean, he's currently a Celtic player. Now, I will say this. I don't foresee him playing at Celtic next year. And that's not a knock on Andrew Goodman. I thought he had a great MLS's back tournament, but there's a lot of unknowns right now.
Yeah. And, I think that's the thing to keep in mind as well. I mean, obviously Tyler Blackett, we're talking about right at this very, very moment as to his fit. And we talk about him in the current roster as a fit. The question might be, what does this roster look like next year? Because obviously the club is, concerned about this year, but they have also made it very clear that they've been looking at, Jeff just said it literally just minutes ago, that they've been thinking about 2021, right? They were looking at the last two transfer windows, and now they're looking at this upcoming transfer window. And it's all been about how do they use these three transfer windows to get their team to a position where it's, good going into 2021. So they're thinking about contracts that got signed back when Alan Koch was the coach. They're thinking about, new players under Gerard. And to me, I think it's good that they have that vision, that they're looking that far out. I'm not sure if I understand what they're doing yet. Certainly from what coach has kind of said about Blackett, it seems like maybe he's not a good fit for the playing style we want. We have to see. I mean, obviously left center back would work if we stay in a 3-5-2, but we don't know. I mean, if Goodman is out, if there's been a lot of questions about Goodman, if there's other players that we're not going to re-sign, then suddenly some of these moves might start to make some sense.
I will also say, as a coach, when you see a guy who has recent professional experience, both playing left back and left center back, meaning that he can do both well, not just, oh yeah, he can do it in a pinch. But I mean, that's a really good situation to have, because if you bring him in expecting him to play either left center back in a 3-back or just center back in a 4-3-3, but then there's an injury and he can slide out wide and play left, you get a player who is serving on multiple fronts, which kind of justifies some more value there.
Similar to Duplan, right? Except on the left side instead of the right side.
Exactly.
Well, so nothing official has been announced in regards to Tyler Blackett. Also, nothing official announced in regards to Mario Götze, the player that months ago would have been, when it was announced that he was going to be leaving Dortmund after the season. The FC Cincinnati fans jumped at this one because of the German connection, right? Cincinnati being a German city, after all. A, is Mario Götze somebody that you want here in the orange and blue? And B, again, where does he fit?
I think the hard thing for me in that regard is where does he fit? Because you have a guy who really is more suited to play as a center forward or like a false 9 than he really is to play in the midfield. Especially at his age and with his injury history. So now you're having another guy who is a piece in the offense, right? And you're depleting that midfield even further if you play him on the field. And is he going to play up front with Jurgen Locadia? Because that's not what he's used to. He's used to playing as more of a center forward in a free role. Now, he's a talented player. So if Jaap Stam looks at what he has and sees Götze and sees what place he can fit, maybe you play him in more of that like 4-2-2-2, where you have him and Jurgen Locadia play up top and you play just two defensive midfielders in the center and no attacking midfielder. I think that's possible, but then you have to say, okay, are you really going to have maybe Frankie Amaya and Alan Cruz out there and put Harris on the bench, because Harris doesn't fit in a system like that. So it's all these pieces that, sure, they're great players, but it's that old adage where maybe your 11 best players is still not your best 11.
Brian, I know you were on record back when he was, it was announced that he was leaving Dortmund. You were on board with this 100%. You thought he would be a great fit.
Absolutely. You bring on a player of that caliber, and you're hearing the money thrown around, $4.5 million. Our buddy Travis, given that little step on Twitter. Anytime you can bring in a player that is just top shelf quality, I mean, he's going to come in and be the best player in the league day one, I believe. I mean, he's played against the top talent. Yes, he's coming off some issues in Dortmund, but you put the guy on the field, you put him with Jurgen Locadia, Yuya Kubo, and magic will happen. Yes, we don't have a perfect defense, but that offense is going to make people scared and bunker and be very careful when you attack. I could be wrong, Coach. I believe that personally, but you bring him in. I mean, he's going to be on the front he's going to be on every MLS advertisement. He's going to be a top shelf player. And I mean, everybody, look, if you just Google, even search Twitter for Mario Götze, I mean, just look at all the hits and the content and what will pop up for FC Cincinnati should they bring him in. I think it's a home run signing. You do it, you make things work. Yeah, square pegs, round holes. You move some people out. Sem Diong, sorry, looks like you're probably going to be on your way out the door, but it is what it is. You go get him.
Wow. Talk about a mic drop from Brian there. Nobody else has anything else to add there. Yeah, I mean, are you surprised that price tag that seems low for me? I would have thought it would have been higher.
Willian was what, 6.2 million. So I think if you can get him for 4.5 or 5, I think it's a bargain. He'll be on ESPN. He's a brand. Fair
enough. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Of course, if there is any updates on player movement, we'll have it covered over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. It was announced, I guess, over the weekend. FC Cincinnati's next 6 matches in the next phase of the season, of the regular season. They will host a DC United on Friday, August 21st. And then on Tuesday, August 25th, they will head up to Chicago to take on the Fire. I guess that game will be at an empty Soldier Field. That was supposed to be the Fire's home venue for this season. Then on Saturday, August 29th, they will host the Columbus Crew in the First Hell is Real. Tuesday, September 1st, they will host Chicago Fire at Nippert Stadium. Then again on Sunday, September 6th, they will be at Columbus. And then on Saturday, September 12th, at New York City FC in Red Bull Arena. That was determined where those matches will be. So what do you think of the next 6 matches for FC Cincinnati? If you're looking at big picture, based on how they performed in MLS's back down in Orlando against the opponents, I mean, DC United didn't make it out of the group stage. The Fire didn't make it out of the group stage. The Crew made it out of the group stage, but they flamed out early in the knockout phase. And then NYCFC didn't have a great group stage, got in by the skin of their teeth into the knockout round and advanced farther than FCC did. But these are some, apart from maybe the Crew games, these are some pretty winnable matches. And who knows? You never know. Maybe, FC Cincinnati could take a couple points off the Crew. But I guess it's just really exciting that we're even talking about matches again.
Oh, 100%. But, to me, I'll actually go exactly the different direction you just went, Nick, which is the game that's the most exciting to me right now is August 29th. I want another shot at the Crew. I mean, I know that that was a miserable game, and I know that the Crew's a good team. There's no doubt of that. But I think we are much more prepared now to play them than we were. And it's the very first game under Jaap Stam. I think he has figured out things, and I think he would have a much different approach to that game. I think we would end up seeing a completely different result. I'm not calling it a win yet, but I think just to see how we compare now versus that team back there in the early days of Orlando. I think it would be an exciting game, and I would like to. I'd like to see how that turns out.
Bri, it will look very much like the 2017 Open Cup match, right?
Oh,
FC Cincinnati sitting back and
Yep.
just hoping and praying to nick a goal.
Coach, I look at this schedule is extremely difficult. I know their places aren't there, but each team has high quality attacking talent. Is there, how difficult do you think for these teams to game plan for that 5-3-2 that we've been putting out there?
Brian, I agree 100% in terms of the difficulty of this schedule. All of these teams have big talent, right? Much higher roster spends than FC Cincinnati, and they've just underperformed. Chicago and DC United both were aberrations in the MLS's back tournament. People were shocked they did so poorly. Same with NYCFC. The only team on this list that performed to or outperformed their expectations is Columbus. The thing that I'm interested in is less how difficult it is to prepare for a 5-3-2 because that's simply you're going to go out and you need to stick to your game plan and not panic, not send too many bodies forward and continue to probe and pry and not settle for long distance shots, right? That's just like can your players be mentally tough enough to do that? I'm interested to see if Stam really will stick with the 5-3-2 because I don't think that's what he wants to do long term. I think that slow possession around the outside of the defense and then try to hit them quick with a few line splitting passes and have more of the ball is what Stam wants to do. And I think against teams like DC, Chicago, I think you can do that. I think will they go back to a 5-3-2 for Columbus? I mean, that's what I'm interested to see is that flexibility. Will it go back and forth or will it be a straight up, this is the year of bunker and counter for FC Cincinnati?
You're really concerned about the Chicago Fire?
I wouldn't say that I'm concerned because they've underperformed so much, but they're a team that, if the coach gets them playing to their potential, Vegas should favor them to beat FC Cincinnati. I guess that's all I'm saying, right?
I agree.
You look at their talent on paper.
Yeah, they're unproven. I do think that might be the one gift, that club, they're still figuring it out. But I mean, you just look at NYCFC, DC United. I mean, you have you might have 3 of the best number 10s in the Eastern Conference on those teams. So it's going to be very difficult for FC Cincinnati to get, 3 wins out of those 6 matches.
Well, we shall see. Again, what do you think of the finals, or not the final 6 matches, the next 6 matches of the 2020 regular season for FC Cincinnati? Let us know. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Don't forget to rate and review the show on, I guess we can call it Apple Podcasts now. Head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/Apple Podcasts. The ratings and reviews certainly help the visibility of the show, so make sure you go and do that. Now, also, make sure you get subscribed to Talking Tactics with Coach Brad Goff. I'll tell you what, it's a treat for me to sit here every week and listen to Coach record that podcast. Honored to be a part of it. The knowledge he drops each week on that show is really impressive. How he's not coaching at the moment, I don't know, but I'm very glad he's not because he's with us. So again, head over to wherever you find your podcasts and make sure you subscribe not only to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, but to Talking Tactics with Coach Brad Goff. Speaking of Talking Tactics with Coach Brad Goff, you didn't have an episode this week, Coach, but why don't you give us one of those impromptu beer reviews?
Well, tonight I'm drinking Listerman's Pride beer that they released. And so it's an Imperial Berliner Weiss with rainbow sherbet. And when I took a drink of it, I couldn't talk for like 5 minutes because it tasted like I was drinking straight sweet tarts and sour strawberry.
Nice.
So if that's your thing, I mean, it's really interesting. It's not my thing. So I'm going to give it like a 1.5 out of 5.
1.5. That's like the lowest rating I've heard you give.
Yeah. Sours, it's not my thing.
All right. Well, Coach, you got any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, I'm super interested to see what Stam does. We've heard a lot through the MLS's back tournament. I heard you guys talk on last week's show, like rating Coach Stam on his performance and the ability for him to be tactically flexible, of coming out in a 4-3-3 and getting destroyed by Columbus, and then sitting back in a 5-3-2, and then switching back to the 4-3-3 for the end of that Portland match when they pushed for a goal. I am so interested to see with Stam actually having time to work with his guys and put in the philosophy that he wants to see where this team's going to go. I think we're going to see a lot of, when FC Cincinnati has the ball, some nice, like I said, slow possession. And then like I like to call it on Talking Tactics, I've said it before, tiki-taka, go. little short passes, and then all of a sudden when the team's lulled into unexpecting, you just hit them, few line splitting passes and you're in. We saw it a couple times in the Portland match. So I think it's going to be exciting times. Win or lose, I think you're going to see improvement from this team, and I think you're going to see exciting soccer. I don't think it's going to be park the bus, bunker encounter the whole time. Maybe at times during the match, but not the whole time. So I'm excited.
Good stuff as always, Coach. Appreciate you being on the show and all that you do for CST, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, Brian Weigel, you got any final thoughts for this week's show?
Well, as much as I love to talk about Mario Götze and have him a part of FC Cincinnati, I still think that the chance of it is very minimal. We have our sources too, and there has been quote unquote smoke, same kind of smoke that has happened, back in March that there are talking, but that happens with tons of players, lots of targets. So just because we've heard Mario Götze, I think we still need to make sure that we keep things in check. You can't just wish things. You can't, don't go on Twitter and just look and find a guy in Turkey and validate this as a source and say, oh my God, it's going to be this. Be patient. If information is going to come out, it's going to come out from good sources. It's going to come out from the Bild. So, BILD, like the German publication, some of those main publications. So be patient. Don't wish things into existence. Just calm down. Us going out and making fools of ourselves and making things up is only going to hurt us in the long run in terms of perception and credibility. So let's just take a chill pill, be excited. It'll happen if it happens.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of wrapped up in two schools of thought right now as far as the transfer rumors. I'm too busy refreshing my Google search for Jadon Sancho every day, Bri. So Mario Götze, I'd be shocked. I really would. Then again, remember, it wasn't that long ago that we were all hoping for Gaston.
Hey, we all said that was a long shot too. So
yeah.
Here's what it is.
It would be cool, I guess, to see, but I'm not holding my breath. We'll just leave it at that. Bri, as always, appreciate all that you do for CST. Appreciate the last 2.5 months, man. You held down the fort admirably. You did a great job, and appreciate you letting me back in the hosting chair, bud.
Let's just be realized. Clay Winstead filed a complaint with HR, had me removed. It's all right. Love you, Clay.
Well, the good news is we didn't have to introduce the Clay clock tonight.
Oh my God! Yeah. That's true. It sounds like there's a tornado outside my house right now, by the way.
Oh,
holy crap.
Well, then maybe it's time for us to wrap things up. Bill Wolf, your final thoughts as we get out of here tonight. Appreciate you being on the show as always.
Yeah, well, 2020, we're, past halfway at this point. I'm ready for the year to be over. It's been a crappy year for the world. It's been a crappy year for me personally. I just want to say, despite all this, we just need to kind of chill out and try to be nice to each other. I just feel like, as we try to move forward with life, as we try to, cope with the new reality of where we are today, people just are so angry. And I like just, to take, Brian's point on this, which is like, let's just be good to each other, or maybe the new Bill and Ted movie coming out soon. Let's just be excellent to each other.
Yeah,
exactly. See, Wild Stallions. Woo!
There's a new Bill and Ted coming out. I didn't even know that.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh! Get out from under your rock. No, just kidding. No, but seriously, people, try to deal with. Everybody's dealing with a lot of stuff right now. Let's try to just be kind and not be so angry with each other, and try to just, be good people. So we got 5 more months of this year, and then maybe 2021 will be better. So
here, Bill. Well said. Appreciate you being on the show as always, buddy.
It's always a pleasure.
My final thoughts, not that anybody cares. I had an interesting weekend. I did something for the first time in probably over 30 years. I went camping, and that was definitely an eye-opener. Would I do it again? Yes, and it was good. I took a little bit of a break. I put the phone down. I wasn't worried. Bill, I know you've done that a couple times. You just had to get away from social media. It was refreshing. It was, and I agree with you 100%. You know, we definitely do need to be nicer to one another. You know, I feel like sometimes as a fan base, I think we just sometimes talk just to talk. Sometimes it's okay to not tweet. Sometimes it's okay to not, you know, respond. So anyway, I don't even know where I'm going with that. I'm back in the hosting chair, and already I've forgot how to do this thing. Anyway, my thanks to Jeff Berding from FC Cincinnati for joining us this week. Thanks to all who tuned in and watched live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And, of course, my thanks to Bill Wolf, Brian Weigel, and Coach Brad Goff. I am Subes, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will see you all next week.